Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Michael Hall. It is a beautiful Thursday evening, so thank you for coming on and tuning in with us. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of this episode is called The Release, and meaning so not only just because of Jaden Daniels and his release of the football, but also because of the schedule release. So, Hall, let's not wait anymore. What was your reaction from the release?
I mean, since we already knew like the teams we were playing, I wasn't really like all like, oh. I mean, I guess I was. It was just kind of one of them things where I was like, basically, I was just looking to see when the first home game is because got to go to the first home game, kick what everybody see, then play the Giants, and I was looking for that Steelers game because you already know Gavin's been running his mouth, so got to hit that one up. And but outside of those two, and I was looking for the Baltimore game just to see when that was, maybe try to hit that one up too. But outside of that, I was just looking for the home opener and that Steelers game because those are the two that I'm definitely attending, and I just wanted to get locked in to see where those were going to be at.
Yeah, it's
or
funny
what dates they're going to be.
It's funny because the OC had said in our chat, then needle really not moving with the schedule release, and I understand that because not really sure. It's just a schedule release. Now you just get to find out when you want to spend your money, right?
It's also most of the games get leaked before it even officially gets
Right.
released anyway, so it's kind of like.
Yeah, and that home game with the Giants, of course, the UK boys are coming over. There's a bunch coming. I think he said 18 total in the group. I think Freddie Ham said that they're getting together with Johnny and company. They're actually getting together. Hopefully nobody actually sells their ticket to somebody else this time, which really pissed me off last year. But, we don't need to start this off in a toxic situation. But a lot has happened since the last time we recorded. Obviously we were doing 2 shows a week, and we transitioned to doing one during the summer here. I'm about to move to Delaware. I'm waiting on everything with the house for the final move going on. But Dan Quinn showing up in that T-shirt with a feather on the W with the Commanders on it. I absolutely loved it, dude. I mean, it just brings more attention to Washington. And I know Dan Quinn kind of said that he kind of regrets it now because it took away from the players. But Coach Quinn, you have to understand, everyone just, hates on us. Even Colin Cowherd said, he's like, I haven't said anything nice about Washington in over 10 years, so let me blah, blah, blah. Well, let's just get eyes on us first, Coach. You know what I'm saying? That's what's most important here, just getting eyes back on the prize, and it's good that what he did. In my personal opinion, it was awesome to see. And people shouldn't. I know that there's people going out there saying, "Oh, you riling people up. This could be something going on with the NFL putting down fines on them." Bring the fines. Where's they at? Screw you. I'm pretty sure we'll have a fundraiser for them.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Someone will make a GoFundMe on Twitter or somewhere for Dan Quinn's fine. Where everyone will pitch in to pay that, but he's not getting fined anyway because there's no sanctions. It's the off season. You can wear whatever you want.
Right.
But like you said, I liked it. I loved it actually because, I mean, of course, we're the only fan base that's going to look at one little feather on a W and say, just make it a whole thing, a whole discussion for almost a whole weekend span discussion about a feather on a T-shirt. But I loved it because, and I love his explanation where he was, or one of the team sources said, I guess it was Mike Jones, that it was pretty much a shout out. Mike Jones. It was a shout out and a callback to all the old players, all the alumni, all the legends in the history of the Washington organization that, hey, it's a new era, it's a new regime, and we don't care what the last guy did. We'll welcome you guys in. We want you guys around. We want you here. And it's a shout out, and it's a callback and a throwback to those guys. And
it's also a narcissistic take in itself, but keep going.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, it's good. I want if the older guy, I was listening to Doc on the radio. He said he loved it.
Yeah.
And B Mitch loved it, and all the older players, all the alumni, all the legends of the team, they loved it because they felt like they weren't a part of this team, this organization for the last couple of years. And that little one gesture that he did, was just like, hey, I remember you guys, and I want you guys to be around. And we should honestly, that's what we want as this organization. We want our old players, our legends around, dropping knowledge on the younger guys. So I liked it. Didn't have a
Yeah,
problem with it.
and look,
I'm not Florio. I'm not going to make it into a whole big ridiculous thing.
right, and also remember, guys, that there was a good amount of ex players here that were saying they did not want to be attributed to this team whatsoever, either because of the name change or because of what happened previously under Dan Snyder. Which, to each their own. You know, you have all the credit in the world to you for standing your ground and standing where you are. I just love the game of football, and that's what I'm here for. I enjoy. I love watching the players that drive on the same roads that I do to work, playing in my hometown, and I really enjoy and I love the game of football. If the game of football wasn't played professionally, then I would be watching it something else. You know what I mean? Just because I literally love the game of football. It's more than just a name to me, and that's why it's kind of hard for me to kind of understand everyone's kind of animosity towards it. Because at the end of the day, as long as I get to watch football, I'm good. And the one time I would say that was really pissed off more than anything was probably when during COVID, when they said that they were going to be possibly taking games away from us because of COVID. That like really put me over the edge. But we do have to talk about the Dothraki practice reps, bro, because that was absolutely insane. I was watching the live stream and it was inside the bubble, of course. And all of a sudden, you just heard a roar, just roar, and I was like, "What is going on?" I looked down and seeing the players running back and forth on the pads, the energy level. You know, you played ball, I played football. Just talk about that energy level and what it does in a practice setting.
Honestly, I froze. I only heard like the last like 10 seconds of what you said.
The Dothraki type of practice energy that you saw, that video that everyone loves hyping up.
Oh, when they was like running, they made like a little
Yeah,
tunnel thing or whatever it was.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to like honestly, like when you start off a practice, you're doing your stretches, you're doing this, doing that, and some days it can get kind of like take a little while to kind of get into rhythm and to get in the swing of things. Now, that was one of the first practices, so I feel like the energy was already going to be there regardless because everyone was so eager to get out there and whatnot. But I like that because if they're going to continue to do that like into August and training camp and whatnot, I like that because there's going to be days and day like 13, 12 of training camp where you're just like, it's 90 plus degrees outside. You're going to be like, do I really want to go through this today again? Like, it's just one of them days. You kind of drag in. All of a sudden, bang, the pad drill comes up, the tunnel. Everyone's running around, making noise, having a good time. All of a sudden, it picks your energy level up, and you're like, all right, you know what? I'm not worried about this heat. I'm out here with my guys. I'm ready to have a good time. I'm ready to have a good practice. And it just gets the energy level up. It gets the vibes going, good vibes, gets your spirit up, and it's just like they always say, the way you practice is the way you play. And if you're having a good day in practice, you're feeling good, you're vibing with the guys, gelling as a team, it's only going to carry over to Sundays, which is what we all want and want to see. So I love it, and I love that Dan Quinn is bringing the energy, bringing the good vibes to practice every day.
Absolutely, dude. I call it the Thraki tribe. I wholeheartedly agree with it, to be honest with you. But now we are joined by our guest for this episode, which should be coming up here momentarily. Now we are joined by the elegant, the very intellectual ma'am herself, Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Thursday evening, ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. My apologies for being late. I am at an event in Potomac and it was very hard to get Wi-Fi,
The
but
fact
very
that you're even
excited
here, I know how
to
busy
share
you
with
are
you.
because we've been trying to get you back on here, Kelsey, and it's so hard to do. But, you know, with the schedule release and everything that happened with it, is I know that you have connections with the Ravens. How big of a game is that going to be? So just specifically talking about, we obviously want Jaden to start the year at quarterback, and we wholeheartedly expect him to win that job. But just talk about that matchup in itself.
One thing I love right now about the Commanders is it's excitement around this team, right? And all of us have been here long enough to know how negative a lot of the time the season starts are because usually we know what to expect from the Commanders, right? Usually it's more the same. I think Jaden Daniels has breathed new life into this franchise. Like literally, we've been on life support, it feels like, and all of a
Mm.
sudden fans are excited. And I really feel like fans feel like they contend. I know for fans that have been watching rookie minicamp or OTAs, from what they've seen from Jaden Daniels, his energy, the energy that I think he helps bring to the team, the accuracy that he brings to the team. Hopefully the deep ball that he can bring to this team will be great. And, I think on the other end for the Ravens, I think it's a new look Ravens team, right? They lost some big pieces last year. And, Lamar Jackson's Lamar Jackson. Like, let's just be for real. Nothing else I really need to add there. I know he said he lost some weight, which is a little scary if you're a defender, because it's just like, geez, can he get any faster than he already is? Like, geez, Lamar, like let us have our stats. But I think the great thing about Lamar Jackson is like he can carry so much of that team. What I like about Baltimore, though, is what they did in the backfield with Derrick Henry. My gosh. And, Derrick Henry, each year he would eat against the Ravens, whether the Titans won or not. So I think having him is going to be an asset. Ravens have had a good run team for a while, but I think, adding him, and of course, Lamar's a runner, is going to be great. Their defense is kind of the one I kind of still have questions about. I think, they've had some good pieces. Their secondary, honestly, both Washington and the Baltimore, the secondary is something I think I'm going to definitely be looking at and seeing if they're able to contend. But I think this year, when the Battle of the Beltway, anytime that comes up, I think it's finally going to feel like more like, it's not more one-sided. It feels like in the past, like Baltimore fans have felt stronger and more confident, right? That side of the Beltway. But I feel like Jaden Daniels, if the job is done and complete, and the pieces that Washington added, right? I mean, you see they're working out wide receivers. Obviously, I think they know Jaden Daniels needs weapons around him. I know there's been a lot of conversation about Luke. And so all that to say, I think all in all, this competition, again, feels more even. I know Baltimore's still up high, right? I mean, the Ravens have the second hardest schedule this year in the National Football League for a reason. They were almost in the Super Bowl for a reason. But all that to say, I think Commanders fans finally feel like they can, wear that W with pride now when that game happens. So super excited for it.
Yeah, one of the crazy clips from the player interviews the last couple of days was Sam Cosmi talking about how he was about to pull on a practice rep, and Bobby Wagner called out the fact that he was about to pull, and Sam Cosmi said, like, I was trying to hide that, right? So kind of talk about Bobby Wagner. Is that something that Washington's defense, like, we are more than blessed to be able to have him on our squad, right?
For one, I think, a lot of the issues with, I'm old enough to remember when, we had fights on the sideline in Washington. It was a laughing stock around the league when players were blowing up, right? So all that to say, I think somebody like Bobby can help, make sure that, nothing hopefully gets that contentious to where it happens on the football field, right? And we want fights in a game. We want it to be against the opposing team, right? Not on our own sideline, not to become a laughing stock, right. Which happened in Ron Rivera's tenure, right? And honestly, I think Dan Quinn is good for this too. I feel like it's kind of more like, I said this on a radio show yesterday. I think with Washington now, and I think Bobby's going to help do this, but I feel like I can say the ability words. I think we have stability, and we're going to have some accountability, which I think is really, really important for Washington to have. So all that to say, I think somebody like Bobby, who is a veteran, a well-respected veteran, right? Like, you're talking about one of the best. I think it's going to be great because Washington's defense, the names on paper are strong and the names on paper are good, especially in that front. But all of a sudden, as we saw, Washington was bottom of stats, folks, in a couple of categories. For one, turnovers is something, fellas, that I want to see Washington get, the defense get. That changes bowl games. And last year, Washington wasn't able to capitalize on turnovers yet or get them. So all that to say, I think, I saw that clip. I loved everything about it because that veteran leadership, it matters. It does matter in a locker room. Remember, this is a whole new look Washington team, new ownership, new coaches in that locker room, right? New faces in that locker room. So I think with something like Bobby can do that, I think it's going to really inspire that defense. And hopefully Washington can get back to being, again, a top defense because especially with the rookie quarterback on the other end, the defense is really going to have to step up and do their job.
Yeah, 100% agree. And you mentioned all the new faces in Washington. They have obviously a new quarterback and a whole new draft class, and they've already gone through rookie mini camps. They're doing OTAs as we speak. Just kind of looking forward out of the draftees. Who do you think is going to be that kind of like new star in Washington? Like everyone's going to get to know his name in Washington.
And I'll tell you really quickly before we get to the rookies, someone else I've been excited to kind of see the leadership from is Zach Ertz. And I feel like there's not a lot of conversation around that. But I think when you have a quarterback and you're thinking about routes that Jaden Daniels is going to want to throw, and you think about what the Washington offense, what Cliff Kingsbury has liked to do, especially in Arizona, he likes to use tight ends. So all that to say, I think the tight end group is actually going to be utilized, for me last season. And, with Logan Thomas and that how that all went, I wanted more from our tight end group in Washington. So I think I'm really super excited about that. I know everyone's been asking me about Luke McCaffrey, and that's been a name I know that everyone's excited. I'll be honest with you guys. I wasn't as high on him when Washington drafted him. Excited that both him and Jaden will be going to the, premier camp together. But I'll tell you, for Jaden to be successful, I think it is going to matter. He's going to have weapons. I mean, it doesn't even matter for a rookie or not, right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes, for instance, like the Chiefs, my gosh, they got Hollywood Brown. Come on. Like, can the Chiefs like let other people win sometimes? Like, it just seems like every time they lose something, they gain another piece. And so I think for me, I think the biggest thing for Jaden Daniels is going to be who can he have chemistry with? Who can he have a connection with? I love Jahan Doxson's quotes coming out of camp, because Jahan is somebody that I have been so high on. And when he's at his best, the man is at his best. I tweet all the time, he's a stud. But I think he can go to another level. But I think he's needed a quarterback, right, to help take him to that other level in Washington. So I think I'm really super, super excited about him and his development and what he can do in Washington. Because again, I mean, Jaden, we can say Jaden is the best quarterback in the class. And again, people can, this is your opinion, but all that to say, he can't be good if he has no one to count on and no one to throw to. And Terry McLaurin is going to need help, right, on that offensive end. So I think for me, I'll probably say Ben. I'm going to go back to the tight end group. Ben Sinnott is probably going to be one that I am going to be, again, looking out for. I think, again, with Jaden, you're thinking about an offensive line that will be tested again in Washington. Hopefully not as bad as last year. Hopefully a lot better this year. But I think, again, he's going to have to do a lot of these more short, chuck passes. And I think the tight end group is going to be useful, whether they're blocking or being the pass-catching tight end. So super excited for this group. Washington might have not had the most flashiest draft class, but again, I think they have understood at least the pieces that they needed to kind of begin addressing. And you guys just seem happy. So I feel like you guys are excited about what Washington has done. Usually it's a different mood sometimes when we're talking about the Commanders.
Yeah, so it's been a real crazy week, Kelsey. We're both really tired. It's been kicking the heck out of us. But I will say this, one of the most impressive things I heard about the McCaffreys was that his mom ran a 4.5 when she was pregnant with Luke, which is absolutely incredible to hear that. Yeah, I know.
She put all of us to shame.
Exactly.
I don't think I could do that without a baby.
I couldn't do that at 18 as a young man, let alone. That's incredible.
Good genes.
But to bring this back into Washington, like a little bit more, you've heard about the RFK bill and everything like that. Do you think with Washington, do you think that D.C. is going to be where Washington ends up settling?
My gosh. So I just had a conversation this week with one of the council members running for Vincent Gray's old seat in Ward 7. She's actually on the development committee. I won't share her name because I got some good information. But anyways, all that to say, sources said, all that to say, so remember, I think folks have to understand this. Again, I had to explain this on a show yesterday. So DC, obviously not a state. That's why they're fighting for statehood. RFK, they're thinking about federal land and all that type of stuff. I saw some progress. So I know there was a senator that really wanted Washington to connect with their old Native American background and heritage. Washington has since met with, I believe it's the Wetzel family, if I believe right.
Correct.
Is who they have met with. And so they have been moving steps forward. But just know so Congress, remember, they're going to be taking a break soon. They're looking at June, so next month. Then they'll be back, of course, in November. So you have that whole thing happening. I don't think it's top of mind, but I know Eleanor Holmes Norton, who, of course, many people love in D.C., is really pushing for this in her work. So I'll have to say, I do think Washington, there is some contention on the council about what to do with this land. Not everybody does want a stadium there. Some people want mixed-use fields. Housing, of course, is huge in D.C., lots of money in housing and development.
Right.
So I really will say this. I think if people want to see RFK return to D.C., I do think the residents of D.C. are going to have to be more vocal and more loud, showcasing why they wanted to come back to D.C. So, because again, I think we're like 50-50 right now, but I do think in terms of momentum, the ownership, again, has done the right thing. The hard part about this, again, is how do you honor the Native American heritage in a way but still not be offensive? I think that's the big question right now, right? So obviously the name change, has went forward. I think we can all talk about if people really have bought into this name change, and this name. Obviously, I think, I go around DC. I do still see people wearing the old memorabilia. Dan Quinn, right, just recently got in trouble for wearing a shirt with the feathers with the old memorabilia. So all that to say, I think if you want the team to come back to DC, please, if you live in DC and a resident, talk to your council members, make sure you're vocal about it, and show that's an important issue to you. But me, I would love it back in DC. I think it's, FedEx Field needs a lot of love to get back to glory. And I'm very for teams playing in the areas in which they represent.
It's funny because, when Ted Leonsis got shut down in Virginia and had to come back to D.C., there was a big uproar about that. So I wouldn't imagine how the D.C. Council would be against that idea. But, Kelsey, that's not my job. That's not what I'm here to do. But I only have a couple more questions for you. Let's say with Jaden Daniels being on this offense, Cliff Kingsbury coming from Arizona, what do you expect out of wide receivers like Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin? Terry McLaurin, one of the only wide receivers to average, over 1,000 yards per season without having a stable kind of quarterback. But now we've got somebody here in Jaden Daniels. So how do you think that those wide receivers are going to do this year?
I think, to keep Terry happy, and of course, Washington has recently paid him, but you got to feed him the ball. And I think really how he wants to be used is he wants to be that deep ball threat. I mean, he wants and needs to be, I think, that deep ball threat. And that's going to be the true question for Jaden Daniels. One of the biggest thing about Sam Howell, and again, wasn't fully his fault, but I don't think he was able to have a deep ball threat because one, the offensive line was being pressured so much. And again, you can't throw the ball. I've never seen a quarterback throw the ball 80 yards on their back. So when you're getting sacked that much, it's very hard to do. And then, so I think the offensive line pressure obviously was a lot for him. And then also, there's a lot of questions about how long Sam Howell held on to the football. I think the great thing about Jaden Daniels is we want him to stay safe, but I think he is going to use his legs in a way that Sam Howell wasn't always able to, right? Like there's something electric about Jaden Daniels. We want his Heisman form here, in DC. Every time I go on radio in Louisiana, they're telling me all these wonderful things about what they've seen about him at LSU. So I think if Terry can be able to be a deep ball threat, I think if Jahan Dotson can help spread the field, and again, you're looking at two top receivers, in that group, I really do think Washington will be able to, again, have two guys that they can rely on. I think that was the other big thing last year. Like, other than Terry, you needed that reliable person. And so hopefully Dotson can be that because a young quarterback needs that, right? And then to build chemistry, he's going to need somebody that he can throw the ball to and catch. So I think, Dotson could be even that short route guy and again, just help get first downs in Washington, and help convert third downs. That'd be great. And I think you're gonna have to use Terry in different ways, but knowing that Terry might be doubled, knowing that, people are gonna have an eye on Terry. So it's gonna force every other wide receiver, I think, to step up just because we all know what Terry McLaurin can do. Now it's time for everybody else to make a name here in Washington.
You're absolutely right. Now, I know we got to get off track a little bit, but the practice style from Dan Quinn, second to last question I have for you. What did you think of? I call it the Dothraki kind of tribe practice style you saw of them running around screaming. We absolutely love it. We played football and the high energy aspect. It makes things more fun, right? How do you like that style?
I think that it breathed life into Washington. Like it seemed like it was the place to be. There was more media there already. It seemed like people were happy. They were smiling. Like we were joking around, which is kind of interesting when you think about where Washington finished last year. But I think, again, people are buying into Dan Quinn and the style. And I think Washington needs this because, again, think about it. You have a lot of fans that have just went off the ship. Like, what's going to be new with this team? But all of a sudden now fans are looking at ticket prices like, okay, I'll spend. It's kind of expensive. You're looking at ticket prices. They're like, okay, I'll spend this because I'm believing. So I think what Dan Quinn has done is he's made football fun again in Washington. He's made these guys realize they have somebody that truly does care about them. In Washington, I think unfortunately during the end of Ron Rivera's tenure, when you're stuck, honestly, when you're sucking, when you're losing, it's hard. It's hard. But I think all of a sudden Washington feels like they have the right pieces and places. And, I think Dan Quinn, I don't know, he seems like that coach's guy, like that guy that you just kind of can talk to and want to be around. I know he's had former players as well on that coaching staff. So it just feels like, again, it's like Washington really finding honestly, I feel like he's helping them find their identity early on in the season. Because again, I didn't tell you who Washington was last season outside of being a bad football team. But this year, I feel like Dan Quinn is helping put a heartbeat back into the guys and bringing that motivation back, which I'm actually excited about. Because I think when you bring energy back, I'm always looking for dogs on the football field. I feel like what he's helping to do at practice is going to help breed new dogs onto that football field who will give their all for that W and for the Commanders.
And we kind of talked about Bobby Wagner talking about bringing the dogs here, right? And that's absolutely right. Last question I have for you. Jonathan Allen, do you think he or Dyami Brown gets moved this offseason or before the trade deadline?
Brown is somebody I think we all could say. We all want more from him.
Yeah.
Like great talent, but it's kind of like it's kind of like life, honestly. If you don't live up to your potential, what have you really done, right? So I feel like that's my question with him. He's somebody, we could always say, well, what would have been? We do that with a lot of former players, right? Allen is, I think, we talked about leadership, right? We talked about someone who's obviously been proven in their position. I think harder to move. So if it were me, if I had to move one of the two, it probably would more so go towards Brown. Just because, again, I have more questions around him. And I can't trust somebody that I don't fully know what you're capable of. I want to know and know you're going to work towards it. Not saying he's not going to put the work in, but he's one, again, that every time I'm like, just give me more. Like, just give me more. because I know he's talented. But, honestly, Washington as constructed, I think Washington's going to be a team that's going to surprise a lot of people. I think there's a lot of questions. I don't think you know where to put the Commanders, right? Like, for instance, in the NFC East, right? I think the Eagles are probably the one team you're really looking at, right? Because the Eagles had a great draft. Jalen Hurts, I think will be Jalen Hurts. Still some questions about the Eagles, but, I still have more questions about the Cowboys. And, everybody I think is talking about Dak Prescott. Brady threw a shot at Dak Prescott. And then the Giants just are the Giants, it seems like. And they haven't done, I feel like, enough to really, be contenders. So all that to say, I think, Washington is that team for one in the NFC East, and looking towards the end of that schedule, it's going to be really important, right, for them to win those division games. But I think right now there's a lot of guys that there's question marks around, but I think that's good for Washington. And if they all live up to their potential, I have Washington being at least a middle of the pack team, maybe a little bit higher up, at least middle of the pack team.
That's how you ended.
We're not going to finish. We're going to have more than 4 wins.
That's how you finish it, Kelsey. Great freaking job.
Washington just has to do better.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
But I'm excited for them. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Fun.
I always appreciate your time because I know how busy you are and that you're being able to come on here and actually be able to talk to us, ma'am. So have a good evening. I thank you for taking some time out for us tonight. I know you're already busy out doing something. So go and enjoy it, ma'am. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Have a great
weekend.
Thank
you so much, fellas. Great to talk to you. Have a great one. Bye.
You too. Bye. Was I freezing up, Paul?
No, you're good. I think it's my what you call it. There's like multiple Zooms going on here, so the internet's kind of like all wacky.
Okay. I could also hear the damn Facebook message group popping off. That somebody must be arguing about something.
I thought I turned my volume down, but I guess I didn't.
Bing, bing. But let's get some.
Literally, Cracky has taken over the Argue with Gavin role in the chat.
Oh, thank goodness, because I'm out of that prep, man. I'm done. All right, boys, let's do some fan questions here to wrap up this episode, okay? And let's talk with the Colonel, who sent in this question. Before his injury last year in preseason hall, I was super impressed with tight end Armani Rogers. With our offseason acquisition of Zach Ertz and drafting Ben Sinnott in the second round, is Rogers on the outside looking in at the final roster cuts?
I would say yes, just for the simple fact of, like you just said, we have Zach Ertz, and if he stays healthy through training camp and into the season, he's going to be probably the number one. Well, not even probably. He will be the number one unless Ben Sinnott just all of a sudden bursts on the scene and is like the next like Sam Laporta or something like that. But I think it's going to take a couple games, couple weeks for him to really like catch that rhythm and get going. So, and we, like I said, we just drafted Ben Sinnott. He's going to probably be the number 2. And then you got a guy like, I think it's going to come down to a guy like John Bates and Armani Rogers and Cole Turner, who obviously Cole Turner is like the forgotten, non-talked about tight end on this roster. But if you've seen their pictures recently, dude's bulked up a lot. And when we had him on, he was talking about how he was trying to get better with his blocking and whatnot. So hopefully he'll be able to add a little bit in the blocking game, which will help him in the long run as far as the roster goes. So I would say between those 3, if I had to give somebody the leg up right now, I'd say John Bates, just because he's been a little bit more consistent than Armani Rogers. He's coming off the injury, but obviously Armani Rogers has the bigger upside. He's way more athletic, and he can provide that kind of, like I said, that athletic tight end. So it's going to be that's going to be one of the really good camp battles. But just as of May 15th, I would say yes, he's the one on the outside looking in the tight end room.
I think everybody is at this point. I mean, from what you've seen, from what they've done in the offseason, I don't think there's anybody that can really be sitting there looking comfortable. You know what I mean? But obviously, like, I think John Bates is that that uncomfortable feeling kind of guy right now. Because where do you go? Because,
I mean, look, like I say, it can go either way, because do you want the guy that's the good blocker and can maybe give you something in the pass game, or do you want the athletic guy with the high upside that's like, oh, wow, he might have unearthed something right here type guy. So it can go either way.
But that's the thing is with John Bates, that makes it kind of tricky. Because, yes, like people complain about the tackles, right? They complain that the offensive line was not built up enough for Jaden Daniels. Well, that's why you have a guy like John Bates, who's essentially like another offensive lineman that you could put in jumbo packages, but it kind of makes you one-dimensional in an aspect. But that's why having guys like Armani Rogers, having Cole Turner, having Ben Sinnott, and Zach Ertz in there, you have a bunch of guys who are doing better in blocking. Obviously, Cole Turner still has to progress and prove himself. But the fact is that he has bulked up this offseason, telling you he's working his ass off to be able to get better. And that is what this team honestly needs. They need everybody getting their hand in here and doing everything in their power to get better and show that. And so just adding a group of those guys, dude, this is awesome to see. But do I think Armani Rogers is the one outside looking in? No. I think everybody is, Zach Ertz included. And I don't mean that by disrespectfully. Obviously, they paid him money. But the fact of the matter is, the guys in the room right now are young. They're hungry. They're motivated. They're working hard. And if the other guys in this offense are balling out and are really progressing and producing in a big way for Jaden Daniels, why wouldn't you say, why would we cut one of the young guys when he was already eyeing retirement at the get-go? You know, as a player coach, kind of like a Bobby Wagner aspect. Maybe you could just coach and help us in that breath. But, you know, I'm not here to be paid for my football opinion.
That's why I would say that Zach Ertz, obviously Ben Sinnott, because they just drafted him in the second round, like he's going to make the team. But that's why I say those two are pretty much the locks, because one,
you're
you
right.
pay
I shouldn't
Zach
say
Ertz
every
money,
one of them. You're right.
and there's nothing but young guys in there. You're going to need that veteran guy to kind of be the leader of the room type thing, you know, because who in that room has proven anything, you know what I'm saying, other than Zach Ertz? So
you're right. You're right. You're right. And that's a great point by you. That's why you humble me. That's what you do. The next question from the Colonel. Seeing how James Conner revived his career in Phoenix after an injury-plagued tenure in Pittsburgh, how do you see B-Rob thriving in a Cliff Kingsbury offense? The discussion I'm kind of looking for is how B-Rob was so underutilized under Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, second part of that question is the unknown, the most known unknown, kind of like 3 6 Mafia. Great album. No one knows why. B-Rob was averaging, like 4.5, almost 5 yards a carry last year. I don't know why he wouldn't give him the ball more, especially once you see the offensive line is starting to struggle. You see Sam starting to kind of struggle and kind of lose his confidence. The easiest thing to do would be turn around and hand the ball off. B-Rob was killing him, like literally killing him in the run game when he got his opportunities. Again, no one knows. This will probably never get an answer to why he passed so much. I know I forget who it was. They threw a theory out there that coaching staff last year was like a really like old school like type of coaching staff, where it was like kind of like they go by the motto of, we're going to throw you in the deep end. Let's see if you can swim type thing, or you're going to learn how to swim. We're going to throw you in there. Like, so maybe that's why they were just kind of like throw Sam to the wolves. But
you know my conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know why the second part, but I do think that B-Rob is going to be and Eckler too as well at the backfield. I think B-Rob is going to have a great year. I think that offensive linemen love the run block. Any offensive lineman will tell you, I want to go forward, not come out of my stance and step back or go straight up, whatever it might be.
Correct.
So they always want to be on the attack. When they're attacking, that's the run game. Jaden comes from an RPO type system at Arizona State. Obviously, he has like a really he ran like a pro style type of concept system at LSU, but he's familiar with the RPO, so that's going to be a part of it. So I think that, and then for all the people that say that Cliff Kingsbury is really, really pass heavy, like you said, look at a guy like John Connor.
That's the casual take, because they hear the air raid system, and that's immediately what they think, right?
And if you really go and look at the numbers, like you said, great point. A guy like Connors kind of had a revival in Arizona with Kyler Murray in the backfield and Cliff calling the plays, running the offense. Kenyon Drake had one of his best years of his career when he was in Arizona, coming out of that pass-catching type of guy in the backfield, a.k.a. Austin Eckler. So I do think that just Anthony Lynn being here as well, great running backs coach throughout his career, played running back in the NFL, knows the position very well. It's going to help marry the run game with Cliff Kingsbury's passing game. I think all those are going to be huge factors in why B-Rob is going to average 4+ yards a carry this year. And then we're going to see a resurgence of Austin Eckler, not like the old school 130+ catches out the backfield, Austin Eckler, but I can see him getting somewhere up between like 50 to 75+ catches out the backfield and being a major part and a contributor for this offense.
Yeah, look, I don't want to pile on Coach Eric Bieniemy, because I don't know the politics of what happened last year, right? I don't want to go back in the toxicity and kind of see what was going on. But the fact of the matter is that with all the pass protection issues that you have, Brian Robinson was the best pass blocker you had on the team. He should have been utilizing that breadth a little bit more, but you can use him to pass block, but also rub off of that by leaking into the flat, right? But you've seen him, what he can do with the ball in his hands. And so what can he do? I think that, and especially you brought up a great point about Anthony Lynn. I think that we are going to see a much better Brian Robinson, kind of like not an elite NFL level. He obviously has the talent to be able to do that. But it's just, I don't want to put those expectations on Brian Robinson and say, oh, he didn't do what I expected him to do. Like, I don't want to do it. I love Brian Robinson, dude. but I do expect him to take a massive step forward. I think what you're going to be seeing this year, especially, is that 1-2 punch, that lightning and thunder, kind of with Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. And you've seen what Brian can do with the ball in his hands, but also what he can do between the tackles. I would love to see Brian Robinson on a read option play blocking for Jaden Daniels. Like, yeah, Jaden might be smaller, but you got B-Rob running down the field trying to block your ass, so you better be ready, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, but with last year, though, I'm not really sure what was happening. And my whole theory on all of it is they were trying to produce and show Sam Howell is to pump his numbers up as much as they possibly could in order to get as much as they could in return for him when they traded him. That's my conspiracy theory. I got my tinfoil hat on under here on my bald head. I know it, dude. I get it. I'm just saying that's just my theory and just saying look at stuff. So now let's go to our next question. And this one was submitted on Twitter by our boy Tony Franchise, who early this morning, as soon as I uploaded the one music video I uploaded, he sent it in 12 hours ago. Tony is a man. He said, question for the pod, good morning. I just noticed that this is almost the same set of team, minus the Bears and Titans, that we played in the 2012 season. Could we get another magical season with the number 2 Heisman pick? And also, what game do you think will be the wildest crowd?
Yeah, so to the point about the 2012 season, I think the divisions that you play kind of rotate like every 4 years. So if you really think back to like 2020, we played the COVID year. We played the AFC North, like the Steelers and all them. Obviously, we beat the undefeated Steelers, the Browns, and everything.
Wait, say that first part again.
Every 4 years, the team that you play.
The undefeated Steelers we beat.
And the undefeated Steelers part, yeah. We beat them, and we beat the undefeated Eagles. I mean, I'm just saying we're the undefeated killers, but that's for another day. I don't even remember the question now.
Shit, my bad, dude. I'm sorry. I just wanted.
No, I do remember it now. I remember it now.
Twist that
one. Yeah. So, what am I excited for? What will be the most hype crowd?
Could this be another magical season like 2012 with the Heisman?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of similarities. It's if you really look at that 2012 team, there was a lot of veterans on that team, like Santana, London Fletcher. Pierre Garçon was here that year, like guys like that. So we have the veterans here to kind of mix in with the younger guys and like a really good blend. Hopefully the defense will be better than 2012 because that defense was horrible that year. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see like I don't want to put the expectations on there. I told myself going into this season I wasn't going to put any expectations on this team. I'm not going to get all hyped from the videos on Twitter. I'm not going to get hyped up from hearing this national person saying, "Oh, I love Jaden Daniels and da-da-da-da. He's going to have a CJ Stroud effect," and I'm just kind of woo-saw and let everything play out. But, yeah, so most hype crowd I think will be – honestly, I think it's going to be week 1. I think it's going to be that Giants game. I think it's going to be – especially if they – or week 2, sorry. I'm so week 1 being the home opener. So, especially if they come off in week 1 and they play really good against Tampa, they get the W in Tampa, which – I mean, going against a Todd Bowles defense with a young offense like that.
Is Todd Bowles still in Tampa, by the way? They have a new coach.
No, they don't. He's still the head coach.
No, he's not, dude. They have a new head coach. They signed the dude from Carolina. They hired the guy from Carolina, the offensive coordinator.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they did. I promise you.
Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator, went to Carolina as the head coach.
Oh, shit. Am I tripping?
Yeah, Todd Bowles is still there.
Let me look this up.
You got it backwards. Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator. He went as the head coach of the Panthers now. They fired Frank Wright.
You're right.
I was like, damn, did they fire?
No, that's why I'm telling you, it's been a long week, man.
Trust me, I'm right there with you. I'm like, damn, we still got Friday tomorrow. But no, so yeah, Todd Bowles against a young offense like this is going to be a good test, and they can put points on the board, I think, and especially if Jaden Daniels comes out, has a RG3 type of week 1 against New Orleans back then, where he just puts up a couple touchdowns, some good numbers, they win the game. I think that week 2 crowd going to New York, knowing that New York has beat us the last 4 times that we played them, it seems to be like, obviously Malik Neighbors is there, Jaden Daniels' boy. The Giants are supposedly going to have a down year again, and I think that's going to be our like revenge type of like, look, we're making a statement, like we're not here to like BS around. We're coming for the league. I know I'm just joking, but because it's the Giants. But no, honestly though, I think that that week 2 home game, it's really the start of the new era, the new Adam Peters era, the Jaden Daniels era. I think that Dan Quinn, a lot of people are skeptical, but he's a lot of people have kind of started to warm up to him and thinking like, okay, there might be something brewing here. So I think that week 2 will be the tip of the iceberg or the top of the iceberg.
That's a really good one. I'll give you two different answers here, Tony. The first one I'll say is the Ravens away at Baltimore, especially if Washington does come out offensively and do pretty well, and that build starts to generate, the fan base getting very, very excited. Could definitely see a lot of people, especially Commanders fans, going up to Baltimore. So when you say wildest crowd, we just got to understand we're going to Baltimore, animosity,
I
battle
should
of
have
the
thought
belt.
about away too. I was just really thinking about like I was
No,
gonna
no,
say
no.
FedEx
Like,
is
how
not
are you
even
going to think
FedEx
about
anymore,
away?
but
Like, it's just that's a unique game in itself, just because of how close
yeah,
our teams are, right? So, and
that's what
you're
I'm saying.
talking.
That's a good point. That's why I wasn't really thinking about like any of the away games. So that's a good
But
point.
then the other one I'll say is, I'll say this without a doubt. I do think it's going to be Dallas at home. The 1 p.m. game. What is that? Like the first home game that we have for Dallas, the first matchup we have against them. Because if
Pretty
you're talking,
sure that 18 game is at the one at home.
that's the one at away apparently.
Week 18?
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
I might be
shouldn't
tripping.
like
I
that.
don't know, man. I wrote it down. I'm probably wrong, dude. Let me look
I'm
this
about to
up.
look
So
it
let me be wrong twice, Hall. Okay. Like I
up.
said, you humble me, and I am proven correct yet again, or incorrect. No,
It is week 18.
no, yeah. Our home is week 12 against Dallas. We're away in week 18.
Okay,
Idiot.
yeah. So I got it backwards. I thought it was week 18 we were at
Ah,
home.
I got one. Got one. But I think that one, because if you're talking about like the generate of what this team could be, Tony, and what you say about could this be a resurgence to the 2012 season, like that, you remember that stretch of games for Washington in 2012? That Dallas game was amazing. And imagine us being at home and being able to witness that. So if the wildest crowd, I think it could be that Dallas home game in week 12 if things are picking up and we're moving towards possibly being a good team and making the playoffs. That's
That's funny because I was gonna say at the after you're done, I was gonna say side note, a little like maybe a 1B answer to the hypest crowd. I was gonna make that point as well that like maybe they like catch that fire like 2012, they get on a roll. Week what would it be? Week 17 at home against Atlanta. Kirk Cousins comes back to FedEx or comes back to Washington.
if he's
If
still
we're in
starting
that,
by then.
yeah, if he's still starting by then, if he's not, he'll probably still he's starting. They paid him all that
I know.
money,
They paid him a lot of money. I'm
but
just saying.
but I think that if we're both in that play, kind of like playoff contention, it's going to be a tight playoff race. This win could swing either team either way to playoff contention. I think that crowd, Kirk Cousins coming back, is that will be a rowdy. Even though it'll be late December, probably freezing outside. I think it'll be a rowdy crowd if we're like in playoff contention or something like that.
That's a really good one. Very, very good one, because that's exactly right. That's around the time frame that Vikings game was, if I'm not mistaken, too, from
Vikings
2012.
game, that was a week 10 game. I do remember that
That was week 10.
because
So, okay, so it's around
yeah,
the Cowboys game. Now, the next question we have is from Big Tony Shivers. Thoughts on where the bye falls? It feels like we've been hit with the late bye the last few years, and the bye week, the bye week for this season is yet again, third year in a row, is on week 14. So, how do you feel? How do you feel about that bye week, Cole?
so part of me is like, why do they keep giving us this late bye week? That's like literally like from the start of training camp in late July, August, whatever it is, up until week
You know,
14.
you know.
Yeah, I know. Just going just straight. I mean, you got like a Monday night game and a Thursday night game mixed in between there. So like you do have a like mini buys. And I do that. I know they have like a pretty much like a stretch of games where it's like 4 of 6 is at home. So like that might be around like when the buy is. They have 4 or 6 home games like in the
You're
season,
correct. You're correct. They
and
end the
then
season with Dallas Titans at home, bye week, away at Saints, home Philly, home against Atlanta, and then Dallas away. So you're right. So that 6 game with the bye week being at home, that is like a crucial.
yeah, it's a good stretch. So you can
Yeah.
be kind of in the area and not have to be traveling as much. I know we have the least some miles traveled on our schedule as far as like going back and forth.
Only
And I heard this
10,000
on,
miles traveled
I
for
know
the whole
it's
season, less than
crazy.
any other team in the NFL. Great point
It's
by
crazy.
you, sir.
And I heard on Grant and Danny when I was driving home from work that basically the entire month of October, they did not get on an airplane once because they have the game in Baltimore. Obviously, you're going to drive to Baltimore. And they have, I want to say, 2 home games in October. And then the third one might be like a trip to like New York or Phillies where you're not going to fly there either. Or you might fly, but it's like not even a flight. So I think that, look, most years I'd be like, they're kind of like dogging us with that week 14 bye because it's so late in the season, especially if you're a team that's on a roll. You get that week 14 bye. At that point, it's like you're kind of killing our momentum. Then we got to get back into the swing of things week 15. So part of me is kind of like, I don't like it, but also part of me is like, I do like it because if they are competitive throughout the first 13 weeks of the season and it's kind of putting a toll on the team, but they're still kind of in that mix of like 14 games. Let's call it 6-8, 7-7 type season. Well, that bye we can kind of be like, all right, let's reset real quick, take a deep breath, and let's get ready for this last 5-week stretch, 4-week stretch, whatever it is, of legitly like kind of playing playoff type football. So part of me likes it, part of me doesn't like it. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm not going to put expectations on this season, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But I'll say as of right now, because I do think they're going to have a decent season, I'll say I like it because it'll give them a little break in between things and they can kick back up and get into like that down the stretch playoff mode.
What do I feel about the Week 14 bye? I feel bad for the players, especially because obviously it's a huge – like imagine when's the last time you guys played Turkey Bowl, right? And you kind of know
Miss Turkey Bowl.
What happens to your body after Turkey Bowl. And imagine these guys are doing it every single week against bigger people, better athletes that with harder hits, and obviously they train for this.
Better athletes is no, I'm just joking.
When you're going against me out there. I'm just saying. But in all honesty, I feel bad because that is a long stretch, and you have to take care of your body. You have to go into it with the right mindset to say, I'm going to have a plan for this, to be able to make sure, because London Fletcher obviously went into the cold tank before and after every game, right? Because that's what he had to do. But honestly, Tony, why does this happen? Probably because they hate us. And they hate us because they hate us because they're anus. And that's it. And where does this come around? It comes from probably from New York, if I'm not mistaken. Just because they don't like to see us happy down here, and they don't like our guys to be in a good position, right? To be successful, so to speak. But honestly, what do I feel about it? I feel bad for the players that they have to go through it. Obviously, it doesn't affect me whatsoever. But I just hope that Josh Harris and company have put in and invested into making sure that we have more than just Walter White in the medical side of things, in the rehab, being able to put these guys in a position to really take care of their bodies for the long haul, because obviously the NFL does not care. The NFL does not mind putting in a Week 14 3 straight years in a row and saying, yep, that's what you guys got, deal with it. And that's okay. We can deal with it. We're used to it. We're the island of misfit toys. And we're the Dothraki tribe. We're going to come in, we're jumping off our horses, beating people in the head, and then we can laugh at John Moore as he's crying in his suite. That's fine.
I was also just thinking about this. Like, if you really think about, like, the rookies that are really going to be contributing this year, like, obviously Jaden Daniels, Johnny Newton, if he can get back healthy before the season starts. But we're talking about, like, by Week 14. He should hopefully be back by then. So Johnny Newton, Sam Restill.
He's definitely going to be back by then.
Yeah, Luke McCaffrey.
A doctor had contributed on Twitter and said that he should be back by early August. He got surgery on his pinky toe.
Yeah. That's right. I figured he was going to be back, but I thought it would be like during training camp, like right before the season. So, but those 4 guys and Luke McCaffrey, those are 4 guys that are rookies. They're used to playing, 10, 11, 12 game seasons. So that Week 14 bye honestly could be kind of beneficial for the younger guys because they're like, you know what? We heard about hitting the rookie wall and all that stuff. So maybe it's like, all right, we kind of hit our wall, but now we got a week off. We get a little reset, a little breather before we get down to the rest of the last quarter of the season. So from that standpoint, I'll say I like the bye week every Week 14.
Look at this. We have a special guest joining us for this episode. The Bridge in the UK. Oi! How you doing, Andy?
Oi!
How are we, boys? Pleasure as always to join the GOATs. How's things?
Dude, things are tiring over here. We've been beaten up this past
Work.
week. Yeah, dude, seriously, you're not kidding, man. I got a huge scar on my head. I showed it to the Discord. The past couple weeks have been kicking my rear end. But we have some fan questions to wrap up this episode, brother. You've been doing a great job with the bunker. Just started
Yeah,
a
sorry
YouTube.
I'm late. We literally just finished.
Yeah, you had plenty to talk about, I'm sure, with the schedule release and everything. But we only got a couple more minutes, so I want to ask you this. This is from Deluxe, Andy. What are your thoughts on Michael Davis? Is he possibly the Ronald Darby of this free agent class, and does he start to begin the season?
Ooh, start, maybe. Maybe. I think there's a lot of maybes with this team this season. We were just talking about it on over at the bunker. We had Juice on with us. We said that about a lot of players on this team. Scouse made the point of depends how many people stay healthy. In answer to the question, yes, potentially could start. Potentially could start. But we said that about a lot of players that have come in. We're still, in our opinion, we were saying our starters are good, are really good this season. What's behind it still kind of worries me a little bit. And when obviously you guys have gone into it, and I'll listen when you drop the episode. With the schedule that we've got, I think we're gonna need every single person. And with the bye week coming so late, you guys might have already got into it.
Yep.
Injuries are going to play such a huge part in this season, and potentially, yes, could start. I think it's going to come down to a lot of factors with this team this season. If we can stay healthy, I mean, Scouse on the bunker just said we're winning 10 games this season. By the way, I'm just going to throw that out there right now.
That's
Scouse
my
said
boy.
10. Deuce said 8. Jesse said between 7 and 9. I said about 8 or 9. But then I did have us winning the division on Twitter the other day and got absolutely destroyed. But yeah, in answer to the question, yeah, I think, potentially, yeah, could start. There's lots of players that have come in, like we were talking as well, that have come into this team. And you're already thinking, well, but will they start? You know, McCaffrey, everyone's saying, well, what's he going to do? Everything I'm hearing and seeing, and this is OTAs, and like Jesse just said, we're throwing against air. Even the commanders can't lose against air. We can't get picked off against air. No one's running back. Air's never scoring a touchdown against us. But there's a different feel about this organization and this team already. And I think that's credit to what Dan Quinn and the guys have brought into the building. So, yeah, this is going to be such a different Washington Commanders to anything we've seen. Deuce made the point of, just real quick, for him and for us, this is the real start of this regime. You come in with a coach that was already here last year.
Right.
But for us, this now coming into the preseason, the OTAs and the training camp and the preseason and the season, everyone, and as a fan base, I think we should heed this message. For us, this is the real start of the new Washington Commanders. I think I just get on board for the ride. I think it's going to be great.
See, like, I don't understand why everyone hates on the optimism and drinking the Kool-Aid. Because at the end of the day, dude, are y'all scared of being wrong?
We're fans.
Are we scared of being wrong? Here. I'll be wrong. I was wrong already twice or 3 times on this podcast, and I'll keep being wrong. But guess what? I'm going to keep being happy because that's what I want. I want to see this team be great. I'm going to hope for this team to be great. I'm going to expect them to be great. And especially like you said, Andy, with what this regime has done, I don't think that Mike Davis will start right away. Maybe in some sub packages or maybe some combos with DBs. But obviously,
week 4, week 5, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. He's no slouch. But the funny part about it is, Andy, you highlighted it so well. They have added a bunch of talent in this room. And they really, truly have. And looking forward, you can be confident and comfortable with the secondary that they do have, given on top of having Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. So yes, I'm not going to say I expect them to start the season, but it wouldn't be crazy to think that Mike Davis is going to start some games this year. What about you, Hawk?
Bro, but just real quick as well. Bobby Wagner plays for the Washington Commanders.
Right.
How cool is that to say? I saw the Good Morning Football segment this morning. And people were just tweeting out, still can't believe Bobby Wagner is a commander. That's how far this organization has come. Players like him, he's done, he's past it. No, he's far from past it. He's a commander now. That's
two
for
things
me.
Two things I did not have on my bingo card being affiliated with my team: Bobby Wagner and Magic Johnson. But here we are, 2024. It's a crazy world. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to say I'm not going to sit here and say I expect him to start, but I will say that as much roster turnover that they've had throughout this offseason with the new regime, I'm not going to sit here and be surprised if he went out there and was a week 1 starter because just like Emmanuel Forbes or St. Juice, whoever's on the roster right now, I'm not expecting any of them to start because Dan Quinn and his people, these new coaches, have no ties to St. Juice, Emmanuel Forbes, any of these guys are already here. So
Even though he did
I
have a
think
top
that
30 visit with Dallas last
they
season.
did, and Emmanuel Forbes said they
Mm.
liked him and whatnot. So they did see something in him, yes, but they could have looked at him like, oh, we can
Not
get him
like
in the second
Reed,
round.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But nah, I mean,
Depends what scheme you play as well. Jesse made a point on our show.
exactly,
Dan
exactly.
Quinn every time, wherever he goes, he doesn't bring the same scheme with him.
Right.
So
Yeah, he
we could
built it
see
around his players. So
we could see a Commanders that we've never seen before. Who
at the
knows?
end of the day, Mike Davis is just like St. Juice and Emmanuel Forbes, a big, tall, long corner that fits what Dan Quinn and Joe would love. So any three of those guys could be the week one starter. I'm not going to put any type of, oh, I expect him to be this and the third. No, this is a fresh new start for everybody. You got to prove yourself come August.
I just need him riding off that horse, dude, coming right now. Bam! Beat motherfuckers in the head. And then, you can start from me, player. Now, Andy, this next question from Yam Sensei that you know so well, of course. His question is a really good one, Andy. Now that the schedule is out, what 4-game stretch do you think is the most pivotal to not necessarily win, but show that the team can win?
Funny enough, we just said this. If you look at it, I've got the games just here in front of me. As we come out of the bye week, I think it's going to be pivotal to what this team do finishing in the stretch. Because as you come,
Philly, Atlanta, and then Dallas.
Yeah. So, and again, you're looking there at back-to-back divisional games. So that's going to be pivotal. I think we're going to know where we are the week before the bye and afterwards. Is so pivotal for this team. And you've got them stretch in the middle. Obviously we go down the Beltway. We've got the Ravens. You go the Browns, the Ravens, and then the Panthers. Potentially, you could win 2 out of them 3. The Ravens, I think, it's just going to be a shootout. I think that's going to be a great game. I think it's just going to be an incredible. That's probably the game I'm most excited about. Is the Ravens? I think that's going to be a good game. But then you look at it as you do come out. The Steelers haven't played them at home for God knows how long. Like we played them on the road in 2020. But then you go Eagles and the Cowboys. And Titans, Saints, Falcons, and Cowboys again finishing up. The stretch for this team coming out of the bye is going to be so difficult. And I mean, then you're really going to know where you are as a team then. And like Scout says, potentially, he thought we're going to be that we'll get our 10th win against the Cowboys and we're going to easily win the division. You're going to find out a lot about it. We said on the show, you say this schedule is going to be easier. When you actually break it down and you look at like Carl, like you make it, the question's great because you look at the mini stretches of games. You look at like Tampa opening up, then the Giants, hoodoo over the Giants. But if you can somehow go on the road and win opening game, and then you've got the Giants at home, realistically, I said this on our show, our roster is 1,000 times better than what they've got. On paper, and I know you don't win NFL games on paper, we should absolutely crush the Giants. We don't know what we're getting with the Commanders yet, but it's the mini stretches of games. So that back coming out of the bye, that's really important for me. And I fucking hate the fact that we've got a week 14 bye again, by the way. I think that's terrible.
It is terrible. And the 4-game stretch that I'm highlighting to say not necessarily that they have to win, but to show that they can win. This does date back to 2012. I've said this many times. When this team is really good, they beat the Ravens in the regular season. They did in 2012. And so the 4-game stretch that I'm eyeing is the Arizona Cardinals, week 4, 5, 6, and 7, going from the Cardinals, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Panthers. And the reason so, the Cards are no slouch, dude. I talked a lot of crap about Gannon, or what is his name? What is his last name, the head coach of the Cardinals? Is it Gannon?
Gannon. Yeah, Gannon.
Yeah,
He's a damn good coach, man. He had that defense flying around, and they were freaking good. If you can beat the Cards, that is a big step for this football team because they didn't have their starting quarterback last time that we played them. So now that they do, that's a really good start for you. Then the Browns, talk about Myles Garrett and company. They're no slouch in themselves. We know what the AFC North is capable of, and they were a damn good division. And if you could go in and actually show that you could play well against the Browns, then let's go, baby. And then the Ravens after that. I've already talked about it, the Battle of the Beltway. Really, that is the meter for Washington. Whenever we play the Ravens, that's how you know how good this team truly is. So if that's the one that I'm looking at. If this team can win, it's going against the Ravens. Can they go toe-to-toe? Can they stand in the ring with Lamar Jackson? Can they be exchanging punches back and forth and keep going round after round after round? Because this team against the Ravens in regular season in the past, they were out by the third. You know, and the Ravens were still humming, and actually they didn't even actually have a bead of sweat coming off of them when we did play them. So then the last one being the Panthers. The Panthers being that, are we the old team that plays down to the bad competition and plays up to the good competition? And we talked about it before. Good teams find a way to win. And that Panthers game, no disrespect to Bryce Young and company, I know that they've gotten better. Of course they have. I love Xavier Leggett now that he's down in with Carolina, of course. But
That's my guy.
I love that dude, man. I loved him before, just off his game film at college. But
I heard
hearing him talk,
and
I
I
love
was
him
like,
to death, man.
yo.
I love him to death. So without a doubt, I'll say those 4-game stretch. The Cardinals, Browns, Ravens, Panthers. What do you say, Hall?
Yeah, no, those are good answers. I'm gonna say weeks 9 through 12, the entire month of November, November 3rd, November 24th. That 4-game stretch, we got New York Giants up in New York, Steelers at home, Eagles up in Philly, Cowboys at home. And I'm not saying we got to win those 4 games, and I just want to be competitive in all 4 of those games, because at the end of the day, if we all want to go to where we all want to get to, you gotta play good against your division opponents, and obviously you got to beat your division opponents, but you at least got to contend and play good with them, play well with them. And so look at the Steelers, obviously, history of the Steelers, great organization, great defense always. If you can play well with them and put up points on that defense and go against a great coach and Mike Tomlin team, that's always going to look better for us. And like I said, those 3 division games, I mean, I want to just whoop the Giants, because for some reason we can never beat the Giants. I want to whoop them, like literally with like a switch, like whop, 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 whop. And then
That's mean. I'm just
Good.
kidding. I'm
We
just
should- we
kidding.
should be.
I was talking about beating him in the head, dude. I'm just kidding.
but like at the end of the day, like 3 out of those 4 teams are division teams, and
Yeah.
in order to be the team that you want to be and get to you want to go to,
Damn
you got to either play well with your division opponents or
Damn.
beat your division opponents.
Damn.
So that stretch right there, the month of November is going to be, and also they say you never really know what a team is until after the first 4 weeks of a season. Well, that stretch is right in the middle of that season where you're kind of, okay, this is what kind of team we are. Now we're going to play as this team and be this team. This is our identity. So hopefully by then we have an identity, and hopefully that 4-game stretch comes at least at minimum 2-2.
Yeah,
You
there was
just
a
want to be
great.
competitive in the division as well by the Cowboys
Exactly.
game, don't you?
Exactly.
If you come that Cowboys game, like you say, you have the Eagles and then the Cowboys. If you're still competitive in the division, which we haven't been for so long now,
Yep.
if come that Cowboys game, we're all talking to each other and going, we're still in the hunt here. For me, that's already been a successful season. If we get to November the 24th when we play the Cowboys, and we're all on Twitter or texting each other or doing podcasts going, we're still in, we're in the hunt. That's all you ask as a Commanders fan this season, that come that little stretch that Hall made, great point, come that little stretch with, the game squeezed in between it, but there's 3 divisional games. If come that Cowboys game, we're still in the mix, then give me a big bucket of Kool-Aid, because I'm going to drink it.
Credit to Hall, dude. He was spitting like Kendrick Lamar on that one, because it's 100% right. You have to win your division in order to. That's what you're beating. That's what you're competing against, is winning your division so you can get to the next level, right? And that's what you're fighting for. And to your point, Hall, fantastic response after we sucked all the air out of the room with all of our answers. But boys, that wraps us up
Hey,
for
we all
this.
had different answers, so that's good.
That is a really good point by you, sir. Andy, we love you, brother. It's been a long time, man.
My guy.
How long we've been doing this, man?
Oh, geez, man, a long time now. I said to Deuce earlier, I feel like we're the old guys of the podcast world now. These young kids, all these young bucks coming up with their YouTube shows and TikToks, and I feel like a grumpy old man now doing this.
TikToks or Nick Knocks, yeah. You're absolutely
Hey, man,
right, Andy.
4 months and counting. 4 months and 2 days.
Yeah,
Till
we'll be back.
opening day.
Our flights, we booked everything today. We're done. I think the tickets are getting sorted. Yeah, we're booked for week 2. We're going to be there.
My man, I cannot
Hell
wait for
yeah.
that. It's gonna feel like forever, I'm sure, because we're all jacked up to be able to see this team play football, man. And about time that we have some good, substantial people in there. But Andy, you just put the show back on YouTube. So anybody
sir.
watching, please go subscribe. And specifically, you want to type in the Commander's Bunker, right?
Yeah, at Commander Bunker. I don't know why it does it that way. When you type in the bunker, Adolf Hitler comes up, and that's a whole different. that's a whole different podcast. That my people and his people. Like Hall used to say, my people and his people. We don't get on. But yeah, type in at Commander Bunker
That's
Bunker
funny.
on YouTube. That's where
My
you can
man.
find us.
Andy, we love you, brother. I hope everything is going well at
Likewise.
home. I'm sure it is. You're kicking ass with the hot Spurs. Come on, Spurs!
Come on, you Spurs.
Yeah, my man. All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. If you made it this far, you're a frickin' champion. Thank you to all of our supporters, Tony Franchise, my Tony Shivers, who won a hat from Scott Hartley and Andy Lockhart on their show, which is fantastic. Because, dude, Tony frickin' deserves it. I mean, he really does support everybody here.
That dude
Everybody
is
in
an
the
absolute
Discord.
hero.
Thank you to the Colonel. I appreciate you for your questions, sir. Everybody else, we really do love you guys. We appreciate you for stopping by, listening to us idiots sit around here and talk football, man. We really do appreciate it. Have a great night, everybody. Be safe this weekend. Don't do anything stupid, and we'll see you next Thursday. Maybe we'll be joined by Reed at that episode. Who knows? Nobody knows. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And we'll see you guys on Thursday. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.